anterior aspect. Don't get my face in this video. This is an anterior aspect of the heart. I know that because this apex is on my patient's left. That makes this a left ventricle, this a right ventricle. This is an anterior on the front, interventricular sulcus. That makes this a left auricle. The atrium is inside. That makes this a right auricle, atrium inside. When I go inside the heart, I can see this is like myocardium on the left. This is myocardium in the septum, and this is the right. So left ventricle, right ventricle. That makes this valve over here, because it's on the right and between the atria, which is this cavity, and ventricle, that makes this a tricuspid. These are the chordae tendineae of the tricuspid. You can kind of see the flaps up in here because that's what cusp means. And you can see how the chordae tendineae come down to this right side papillary muscle here. The fact that the muscle goes up and down like this is called trabecula carne. Anyway, there's a papillary muscle on the left with the chordae tendineae of the bicuspid coming down. This is a pulmonary semilunar valve. It guards the entrance to the pulmonary trunk, which is technically an artery. It's blue because this blood was low in oxygen, came from the body down to here, and now it's going to the lungs. This underneath here inside, that's an aortic semilunar. Blood from the left ventricle goes up there and into this aortic system, first the ascending, then the arch, and then it starts the thoracic region of the descending. Inside this right atrium here, which is the cavity, covered by the right auricle, which is the flap, you have an opening from the superior vena cava, you have an opening from the inferior vena cava, and you have an opening from the coronary sinus. So all that blood gets dumped into here. This patch is called a fossa ovalis. We'll talk about that today in lecture. I guess that's it on the front here. On the back, you can see a left and a right pulmonary artery going to the lungs, and two left, two right pulmonary veins coming back. The pulmonary veins enter into this left auricle, whose cavity inside is called a left atrium. Great vessels that enter and leave the heart. Pulmonary trunk is one. It's coming from the right side ventricle and leads to the pulmonary arteries. Ascending aorta, aortic arch, and then the thoracic region of the descending aorta are the parts of the aortic system. Vessels that have come off the arch, this is a right side brachiocephalic. It will branch into a right side common carotid and a right side subclavian, but that's cut off before it does. This is a left side common carotid. It goes up the neck. This is a left side subclavian. Subclavian means under the clavicle. It goes under the clavicle and down the arm. This is a superior vena cava. This is a right side brachiocephalic vein, and that is a left. They're draining the head, neck, and shoulders on the right and on the left. When they come together, superior vena cava. This guy under here is the inferior vena cava, draining the body from the bottom. The actual coronary arteries and veins, I hate that word because there's actually a real coronary artery, so I don't like calling them all coronary arteries and veins, but whatever. On the heart muscle itself, arteries are red and veins are blue, because on the heart muscle itself, which is a systemic organ, arteries are taking blood to the systemic organ and should be filled with oxygen. The first vessel over here is called the right side coronary. It runs in the right side coronary sulcus and runs all the way around to the back of the heart. Coming from that right side coronary on the margin is the marginal artery. The vein that runs with it, small cardiac vein. As it goes all the way around to the back, you'll see that the anterior interventricular sulcus meets the posterior. It's the same sulcus, really, on opposite sides. So this is the posterior interventricular sulcus, artery, which came from this right side coronary, like that. Middle cardiac vein runs with it, blood going in this direction, opposite direction. You have a left side coronary, but you'd have to pull down this pulmonary trunk and lift up this auricle to see it, so you really can't see it here. But it branches right here into the anterior interventricular artery, which runs in the anterior interventricular sulcus, and the circumflex artery, which runs in the coronary sulcus on the left. The marginal artery on the left comes from that, or some people call it the marginal branch, comes from the circumflex, and the small cardiac vein runs with it on this side, just like the other side. This is your left. This middle cardiac vein brings blood up and in. This posterior vein of the heart, or posterior cardiac vein, brings blood up and in. The great cardiac vein brings blood up and around and in. So all the blood is eventually making its way to here, which opens into the right atrium using this opening of the coronary sinus. That's it. Good?